Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide to getting local clients fast. This is your host, Doran Aldana, and today we've got yet another dynamite episode with an extraordinary guest. He is a certified bona fide qualified superstar when it comes to local domination. His name is Michael Hellickson, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Michael, I'll give you a little background. Michael has been a leader in the real estate industry where he has built a multi-million-dollar business as a real estate agent, eventually becoming the nation's number one, not two, not three, number one real estate agent, selling over 100 homes per month. Marinate your mind on that for a moment. That is huge. He also hit 15% market share at one point, and at one point had 750 listings in one time. That is truly extraordinary. During his career, Michael Hellickson has spoken to and coached thousands of students and organizations nationwide. He is the CEO of Michael Hellickson's Club Wealth Coaching and Consulting, an executive business consulting firm that offers coaching and training to business owners worldwide. In select scenarios, Michael also invests in and partners with profitable companies looking to take their business to the next level. Michael has been featured on several national publications and television, radio shows like Glenn Beck, CNBC, the Dave Ramsey Show, the Fox Business Network, and many other local and regional programs. And without further ado, Michael, thanks for being with us today.
Doran, thank you so much for having me, man. What an honor it is to be on the show today, and I'm stoked, man. I'm excited to hear where this goes and see if we can't share some great stuff with folks.
Well, I'm sure we will. So why don't we start off by having you just share a little bit about your story. I'm sure many people are as intrigued as I am, Michael, as to how you got to be the number one agent in the U.S. I mean, that is pretty dang extraordinary to say the least. So I'm sure you didn't start there. You know, you started with modest, meager beginnings. So tell us a quick encapsulation of your story, how it all got started and how you got to that high-level pinnacle in your career.
Well, you're definitely right about the modest, meager beginnings. I grew up, rolling pennies for gas broke. So
right.
It was, I grew up in middle-class America like most folks, and went to public high school and public elementary schools and all that. And so, nothing fancy there. Didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. And, I just started looking at, I was always excited about, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, and figuring out how I was going to make my way in life. And started when I was a young kid. I was mowing lawns, for the neighbors to make money, and eventually I had a whole bunch of other kids working for me. And then as I approached 18 years old, I started realizing, hey, look, most millionaires in this country either made or hold their fortunes in real estate. And a lot of the, if you look at the, what's the best career plan out there for making money, sales has always been, one of the easiest ways to make a lot of money without having to have a formal education, which I was not interested in. Mm-hmm. And so I guess it made sense. Real estate sales, let's go for it.
Right.
So that's what we did.
Perfect combo.
Yeah. But, it didn't start off as, I'm going to go be the biggest agent in the country or anything like that. That definitely was not my game plan. My game plan was I'm going to be able to pay my bills at some point.
Right. So, first things first, keep the lights on, right?
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, I was working 100-hour weeks in the beginning to make that happen. It was no joke. I was sleeping at the office 3 nights a week. It sucked.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but that's the life of an entrepreneur is you gotta start with what you got, and what you got in the beginning is pretty much nothing. You're starting from a standing start. You got nothing but a dream, and the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. So sounds like you had the desire, you had the white hot fire of desire, you had the affinity of entrepreneurship and sales and being your own man and being your own boss and doing your own thing. And so you kind of followed what you felt you would enjoy, what you felt would give you fuel in your rocket and some pep in your step and some sparkle in your eye, something that gave you some joy, some fulfillment. And then you just went for it. tell us, how did you go from starting out just getting by and hustling hard just to keep the lights on to being number one in the entire country? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, it started with when I was newer in the business. My dad was telling me, "Hey, man, you should go get a job at McDonald's. You'd make more money."
Right? The hecklers. And they always come from inside, not from outside. The people who we want the support from the most, friends and family. How does that happen? It seems to happen so often that way. So how did you deal with the hecklers from inside telling you should go get a real job?
Well, the problem was he was right.
Right.
And so, at that point, it's funny because I was the number one agent in my office before I graduated high school, but really all that meant was that I was less broke than the rest of the agents.
Right, because they were sucking wind too, so you were just the best of the mediocre.
Real estate's the only industry I'm aware of that loves to reward people for being broke. It's like, hey, look at me, I'm $1 million producer. And, well, hold on a second here. $1 million, that must have been a nice house, right? It's crazy how we reward people for being broke in this industry. So, I just was bound and determined I was not going to let my dad be right. And then my mom jumped on the bandwagon, and it was everybody around me. And I just had to tell him, and this is going to sound crazy, but I went 10 months without speaking to my parents because
Wow.
I couldn't handle the negativity. I needed to be very focused on what I was going to accomplish. And I'm not suggesting that others go down that path. I'm a big believer in family, Doran, you know that. And so I'm not saying that or suggesting that anyone that's listening to this should go down that same path. But that's the path that I ended up going down. And over time, I had a lot of time to think. I took 2 years off. I went and served a mission for my church. And when I came back during that time, I had a lot of time to think about what am I going to do when I get back? What is it that's going to help me get over this, 100 hours a week BS, and how am I going to really take it to the next level? And the first thing I did when I got back, I was in Germany for 2 years, came back to America, and immediately hired a coach. And that was game-changing for me. That was a big part of me developing the right mindset and understanding what really is possible. And that coach encouraged me to hire my first assistant, which I did. And I had no idea how I was going to pay her, but I hired her anyway. And all of a sudden I started, getting all that stuff off my plate. How as entrepreneurs, we kind of do everything, right? And I wasn't good at everything, and a lot of the everything was bogging me down from those things that I needed to focus on. And so I got this assistant, and she took all that stuff off my plate so that I could focus on what I say for any business are kind of the three things that every business owner has to do on a daily basis, no matter what. And that's lead generation, lead follow-up, and lead conversion.
Lead gen, lead follow-up, lead conversion.
Yep. And what I teach all our coaching clients is, you need to spend 90% of your day on those three things. If you can focus 90% of your day on lead gen, lead follow-up, and lead conversion, the rest of everything will work itself out. Because, if you've done what you should do, you've got an administrative assistant handling all the back end stuff. So you're out there, you're the hunter, they're the skinner, right? You're just going out, you're shooting these things left and right, and they're taking care of it once you bring it through that front door.
I like that metaphor. You're the hunter, they're the skinner. I'm sure the vegans would love that one.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, folks.
It's all
Didn't mean
good.
to get too
It's all
graphic
good.
on you.
I never promised them we're going to be politically correct, so it's all good, man. So I picked up a few things out of what you just shared, and there's a lot. One of them is whether you were intentional and conscious about it or not, you chose to guard this precious seedling of your dream and not let the toxicity of negative influences uproot your dream. And so that's really important. I mean, because generally speaking, we can only perform at the level of the average of the top 5 influences in our life. And if those influences are negative, then obviously that's going to corrode and inhibit our ability to reach our full performance and potential. So that's certainly worth highlighting. Another thing I noticed there is you invested in a coach, even though you were so broke, you probably said to yourself, I can't afford a coach, but you did it anyways. Is that an accurate assessment?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So in other words, you say, screw it, let's do it. No pain, no gain. You found a way. And when you're committed, you find a way. So there's definitely a key to success in that. And you didn't invest in a big screen TV. You didn't invest in a fancy car. that you couldn't afford on payments. You invested in your own knowledge, the 3 pounds of meat between your 2 ears. And I think that, you can't overlook the importance of that, investing in yourself. Can't go wrong with that, right?
It's interesting you're right about that. And it's interesting you mentioned the car thing. You're right. I didn't go out and buy an expensive car, and as soon as I started making money, it would have been very easy to go out and get a car payment and all this. And I tell you what, I started out, I had lots of $500 cars that lasted me a few months, and it was cheaper to buy another one than it was to fix that one. And then eventually, when I saved up enough money, I was able to go pay cash for a car. And so I bought a brand new 1998 Toyota 4Runner.
Nice. But it was cash paid off, baby. Got to feel good about that.
Cash paid off. When I went, I walked into the dealer and I knew what I wanted. And I asked him, I said, so can I just write you a check? And the guy looked at me like I was crazy. First of all, he didn't think that somebody my age would have, be able to write a check for a car.
Right.
Second of all, I don't think he expected anybody to be able to write a check for a car. And so long story short, I still have that car today. I've got 290,000 miles on it, and I still drive it today.
Wow, that's amazing. That's like the example, the quintessential example of the mega billionaires still driving the old beat-up pickup trucks and still living in the same old house they lived in 30 years ago. It's not about pride. It's not about ego stroke. It's about, hey, if they like the car, if they like the house, why would they upgrade, right? But in this case,
it's like Warren Buffett, right? Warren still lives in the house he grew up in.
Exactly.
There's too many people out there that are big hat, no cattle, and it's like, look, nobody cares about how big your hat is, go out and develop more cattle.
Bingo. I mean, the fancy car is nice, but if you impress them at curbside, but you under impress them at table side, that's not going to go so well in terms of conversion. Right? It's probably better to have the other way around. Drive your bucket down the street, park it down the street, show up walking up to the door, and wow their socks off, not because you want it, but because you deserve it, because you invested in yourself with coaching, with books, with training, and that's obviously what you did. That was a big part of what started to shift things for you. And he pushed you, he cajoled you, he stretched you, which, by the way, is a really powerful element of having a coach, because they'll stretch you beyond what you'll stretch yourself, and they'll get you to do things you wouldn't normally do, so you'll get the results you wouldn't normally get. And you hired an assistant. You started to delegate all the minutia so you could focus on the vital few. Lead gen, lead follow-up, lead conversion. Is that the big idea?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really, you got to focus on those three things. I don't care what business you're in. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm in the real estate business. No, you're not. You're in the lead generation business. It doesn't matter what business you're in. That is the number one thing you have to do, because if you run out of leads, you have nobody to serve.
Bingo.
So, yeah.
And here's what we see happen time and time again. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're the chief cook and bottle washer and you're wearing all the hats, when things are slow, you're out there beating bushes for business, and you fill the pipeline with new opportunities, new clients, new customers. But as soon as things getting busy and you're tied to not just hunting, but skinning and gutting and all the other stuff in operations, now you drop the ball on lead generation, and now your pipeline dries up, and now you're in the feast and famine, back and forth, up and down yo-yo roller coaster ride that we find so many business owners in general, and certainly real estate agents, mortgage professionals in particular, fall into. So you're leaving a really powerful little tip here that a lot of people will gloss over and say, yeah, I've heard that. No. Unless you're doing it, you don't really know it. You've thought about it, heard about it, talked about it, wished about it. But until you actually do it, you don't know it. And what we want for you guys is to start to know it. So let's unpack this at a deeper level. Let's say, Michael, that someone is, has big dreams but small pocketbook, and they're in a local market. They're wanting to start to make some traction in terms of market share, customer acquisition, lead generation, but they're just kind of floundering and they don't really know what to do next. What would you give them as a kind of 1, 2, 3? Why don't we start with mindset first, because everything follows mindset. What kind of mindset installments would you download into their brain if you were to give them the prerequisite for breakthrough results?
Well, one of my favorite books is a book called Secrets of the World Class. It's written by a guy named Steve Siebold. And it's a great book, and it's really about mindset. It's about the mindset of the world class and what makes them different. And there's a section in here he talks about the difference between middle class and world class. And just as a couple examples, he says things like the middle class avoids risk, the world class manages risks. The middle class is problem-oriented. The world class is solution-oriented. The middle class seeks riches. The world class seeks wealth. And I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, it's about changing your mindset and understanding that, look, all my life, for most of us, right, we're raised in a very middle-class mindset. And what we don't realize is, look, if you want to change your outcome, you have to change what's inside your head. And that means, it's like a computer, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So I got to start by not allowing negative BS garbage into my mind. And then I need to augment that by programming my mind with positive things all the time. Start reading some good books. Listen to books on tape. Go to some events. Go to some seminars. Do something. Listen to podcasts. Do something that's going to put good stuff into your head. Because here's what's interesting that people don't realize. The subconscious mind is far more powerful than the conscious mind. And what's interesting is that your subconscious cannot tell the difference between reality and what we tell it to believe. So start telling your subconscious mind a new story, and it will become your new reality.
That is so true. And as you say it, I think to myself, dang, that's what I've been doing. That's how I literally took my annual income and turned it into first my quarterly and then my monthly, and then literally I've had weeks where I've made more in a week than I did in a year when I first started out. And how did all that happen? It didn't happen because I wanted it. It happened because I deserve it, because success is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that preparation wasn't just tactical. It wasn't just, pushing paper or doing Facebook ads. It was training my mind to think like a winner. Training my mind every day, conditioning my mind to think like a champion. So in terms of habits, daily habits, is there anything that you found that's worked well for you to condition your mind to think like a champion, a winner, an overcomer?
Well, I can tell you the things I should be doing every day.
Right? Well, once you
I'm human like anybody else. Well, I don't do every day what I should do every day, but I'll tell you, to get to where I've been able to get in my life, one of the things that I did do is I developed great habits. So I literally figure out, okay, what's going to work? What's going to make me successful? And then I put that into my schedule. I create what's called a perfect daily schedule where it's to say it's time blocking time blocking just sounds so cliche. I mean, it's just not, it's much more than that.
Strategic it's time blocking. Very different.
Yeah. Yes, it is strategic mind blocking, and it's really an attitude that, look, if I program the things into my computer that will force me to succeed, and then I just muster up the courage and the energy to follow my schedule every single day, no matter what, I'll be successful. And if I find that something that's happening during my day is not creating that success, then it's easy to go in and just tweak that thing in my day and change that time block or that section. And now all of a sudden I can dial in the success, because again, me following that schedule is habitual. And when you do that, the success follows naturally, as does the mindset. The problem is that we get caught up in our day and we listen to all these outside influences telling us we can't do it, or we're not good enough, or some other negative thing that's flowing into our mindset. And what we allow it to do is we allow those things to get us sidetracked on our perfect daily schedule. If instead I continue to follow my schedule, it will create the success, and the success that it creates will help me feel better about who I am, because guess what? I'm having the success that I want to have, not just at work, but at home as well. I know you and I were talking about that earlier, about time, segmenting out some time for your family, and kind of our mantra, and yours is very similar, is that no success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. So I got to have success there too if I want to have my mindset right. I think one other thing, if I could add to that, in terms of how do I make sure that I've got my head where it needs to be. Obviously, I believe in daily affirmations, and more so incantations, which, if you listen to Tony Robbins, he'll talk about incantations. But the other thing is, I want to make sure that my loved ones, maybe if you're single, maybe it's your mom and dad, brother, sister, whatever. But if I'm married, it's my spouse, right? And very particularly, I want to make sure my spouse knows, hey, look, during the day, don't call me with negativity. Don't call me to tell me the house is burning down. I don't need to know. It's gonna burn down whether I'm there or not, right? So just
right.
I don't want to hear that, right? What I want to hear is you're gonna crush it today, honey. Go kill it. You've got this. You can do it. That's all I want to hear. At the end of my day, when I come home, tell me all the rest of the stuff. But during my day, I need to be game on.
Yeah. So get your people in your corner to support you, and sometimes they need a little coaching to do that, because a lot of times we run by programming from our past, from our childhood, from our parenting, and so a lot of times we'll just do it on autopilot unless we get a little coaching and insight from someone we trust and who trusts us. And so sometimes we need to mold the people around us, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but it's true. I was molded more by my wife than she was molded by me. Apparently, I needed more growing up than she did. But it's important. It's important to do consciously and intentionally. So to bring back the PDS, the perfect daily schedule, you talked about making time for family time, affirmations. I'm a big fan of affirmations. I did affirmations today. I still have the habit. It's part of my protocol in the morning. I do my exercise. I do my learn while I burn, while I'm listening to educational, motivational, inspirational content while I'm exercising, thereby calling it the learn while you burn practice. And then, I do my affirmations, and I always like to add a little yes at the end, to make it powerful. Like Bob Proctor's, he says, I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in ever increasing quantities through multiple sources of income on a continuous basis. Yes, right? Get your whole physiology congruent with it. So I'm a big fan of affirmations. Is there anything else aside from some of those elements you just mentioned that you think every business owner should install into their PDS, their perfect daily schedule, that we haven't mentioned yet?
Well, you need to block out a significant amount of family time, and you need to treat it like any other appointment. And I'll give you an example. If I've got, and it's easy to say, if my kid's got a birthday party, then I'm going to be at the kid's birthday party, and I'm not going to allow anything to interrupt that. That's easy to say. The reality is, what about the game? What if they've got frequent baseball games or soccer games or whatever? It's a lot easier to show up late to a game or to not go at all, or some of these other smaller things that may seem small to us but it's big to them. Or even if it's just, I was going to hang out with my kid tonight at 5 o'clock. We had no plans. We were going to sit and watch TV. I don't care what it is. You have to treat that like any other appointment. And a huge client could call up and say, "Hey, can we meet at this time?" And the answer is no. I have an appointment. I'm sorry, but I can do it at this time or this time. And so you've got to work that in. So a couple other things I would work into your perfect daily schedule. Whatever you're doing, you need to learn how to handle your clients. Whether it's, if let's say you're in real estate, so I'm going to need to learn how to sell. And I'm going to need to learn how to resolve concerns, because people are going to have objections, right?
Right.
So one of the things I want to plan in is role-playing time. So I want to find a role-play partner that understands my industry, and I'm going to very consistently role-play with them on a daily basis. And we're going to make sure that during that role-play time that the salesperson always wins, and we're also going to make sure it's always positive, constructive, and that we don't get focused on things we necessarily did wrong, but we focus on solutions and how we can get better.
Mm-hmm.
So that role play time is very important. And again, with that lead generation, lead follow-up, lead conversion, as part of that time block, I want to make sure I'm reaching out to my past clients and my sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what industry I'm in. It is super important, and those are the people that get forgotten the fastest. A lot of times, especially with commission salespeople, our clients feel like, okay, well, as soon as that person got paid, they disappeared, and they get offended by that. And all of a sudden, you're not going to get referrals from that person. So make sure you're following up with your sphere of influence on a very regular basis.
And of course, that's not going to happen if you think you're in the widget business, or if you're a realtor, the real estate business, or if you're a mortgage pro, the mortgage business, or if you're in the spa industry, the spa business, whatever business you're in. If you think your product or service is the business you're in, you'll stay small. You'll make a fraction of what you're capable and worthy of. Because at the end of the day, no matter what business you're in the marketing business. You're actually in two businesses, as far as I'm concerned. You're in the marketing business, and you're in the success habit cultivation business. Because if you have stinking thinking in your marketing, all you do is accelerate the speed at which people find out you suck. So, I mean, you need to have the mindset and the success cultivation, because we don't want to just make more money. We want to have an abundant life, not just make more money. Who cares if you have more money if you're not happy, right? So,
Absolutely.
So we're not going to make time, like an hour of power, for example, for calling out to clients and calling out to referral partners, if we don't understand what business we're in. We're in the marketing business. We're not going to make time for affirmations, for visualization, for education, for learn and burn. If we don't understand we're in the success habit cultivation business, we're not. We're going to get it ass backwards, and we're going to start to focus on email and pushing paper and being busy instead of being productive and being fruitful. So you make a lot of really, really important points. So you dominated a really, really uber competitive market. You know, there's I think more realtors than there are rodents in most cities. I mean, they're everywhere, right?
Some people would say they're one and the same.
All right. I'm sure they would certainly concur with that in some cases. So how did you position yourself as the top dog and get yourself to that place where it wasn't just a dream but reality? Like, how did you craft this unique selling proposition, if we can call it that? What is a unique selling proposition, first off, and then how did you craft one that really worked for you?
Well, actually, let's go even one step back from that in terms of, you said, well, how do I become number one, or how did I position myself to become number one? I never planned on being number one. That wasn't my goal necessarily, which is, odd maybe, but really it's funny. I had a competitor in my local market, or at least I perceived them as a competitor. I don't think anybody's your competitor. I think you're your only competitor.
Right.
But I had a guy that I believed was my competitor in my market, and I was constantly worried about his numbers and what John was doing and how he was listing so many homes. And I just was hyper focused on John, and what did I need to do to beat John? And all of a sudden one day I woke up and I'm like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of worrying about John. And in that moment, I literally stopped thinking about John. I stopped looking at his numbers. I stopped caring about his production, and I started focusing 100% on my production. And oh my gosh, guess what happened? All of a sudden, my production blew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you talk about a USP, and I am a believer in a USP. So first of all, what is a USP? A USP is a unique selling proposition. So it's essentially, it's what makes you different than everybody else. And it's funny because I teach classes all over the country all the time, and I get thousands of agents come to these classes, and I'll ask, and it doesn't matter how many people are in the room, I will ask the question, what is your USP? And I will literally get about 3% of the room maximum that will even have a USP. It cracks me up, and they just have no clue. And so I say, okay, well, what makes you different than everybody else? And they can't tell me. They can't. It's, well, I give better service, or I work harder. Well, no, nobody. That's not a USP. Nobody cares. It just sounds like everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so here's, in the real estate business, here's an example, and you could use this in any business. A risk reversal guarantee is absolutely in my opinion, the best USP, right? So I'll give you an example, like in coaching. So we use one that's, if you don't double your income your first year coaching with us, we'll give you 100% of your money back. Well, that's a risk reversal guarantee, right? So we're taking the risk out of it for the client. Right. As a real estate agent, we use your home sold in 30 days or less, or we'll buy it. And we would. And then now, since then, we learned, and through trial and error, that there's an even better one, and that is your home sold in 30 days or less, or we'll sell it for free. And it's more believable, and people, it resonates with people more. And so there's lots and lots of different USPs you can come up with, but it has to be unique, and it has to be hard hitting. It has to be something that really makes people kind of sit back and say, wow, like, I can't believe you can even offer that.
Now, I don't think anyone listening would refute the power of risk reversal, because it makes sense. It's just a psychological factor. You remove the risk, you remove the razor wire, you grease the chute, you make it easier for people to say yes. But even with that said, so few people use risk reversal. Let's use real estate for an example, since we've been talking about that, and that's the domain you know. how many real estate agents do you see in your local market who actually use a big, bold promise like that with risk reversal? I haven't seen a single one, Michael, not a one. So what would you say to someone who's, hearing this and they're like, it sounds nice in theory, but, I can't put my balls in a vice, or I can't put my neck under the guillotine with that kind of a bold promise. I can't make promises that I can't keep. What kind of how would you speak to someone like that who's pushing back in that regard?
Well, first of all, enjoy continuing to be broke.
Right?
That'd be my first comment. I mean, here's the thing, and that's a mindset issue more than anything. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. If they're having trouble with that, then it's a mindset issue for a number of reasons, right? Could be that they just can't get their head around how that's possible. How can you really offer that, or you're going to get burned? Second of all, maybe they're not very confident in their product or service. I mean, if you're that confident in your product or service, back it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put a guarantee to it. And then I would say, if you look at real estate agents, you're right, the 99% of the real estate agents out there do not offer a guaranteed sale program or a risk reversal program like that. What I will tell you is that 80% of all agents nationwide that I know of, and I don't have hard numbers on this, but I can tell you that it's about 80% of all the agents that do over 400 transactions a year. So essentially the biggest agents in the country. Mm-hmm. And some of them are doing, I mean, I thought it was big when I was doing 1,000 transactions a year. I was the first guy to do that. But then all of a sudden now this year, 10 people did that. 10 teams did that. So it's getting more and more common.
Right. It's like Roger Bannister in the 4-minute mile.
That's exactly what it's like. Yeah,
right.
Really. I mean, like all of a sudden people realize, holy cow, this is possible. And there's one this year that's very likely going to break the 2,000 transaction mark. But wow. Here's what I can say: all of those people, all of them, every single one of them that are doing, I shouldn't say every single one of them, 80%, over 80% of them that are doing over 400 transactions a year are using a risk reversal guarantee.
Wow.
And it matters.
Proof is in the pudding right there.
Absolutely, no question. I mean, it's kind of like how you dress. This is another thing. Here's a pet peeve of mine. This is totally off topic, but it's so important. And maybe your business is different. Maybe, I don't know what business, if you're in the spa business, maybe you don't wear a suit and tie, right? But let me just tell you, for the guys that are listening to this, dress the part, you guys. Like, if I'm going to go help somebody with one of the largest financial transactions of their life, I'm going to wear a suit and tie. And people love to disagree with me on this. And, oh, Michael, everybody's casual now, and millennials this, and boomers that, and whatever. Here's the thing. Bottom line, I look again at the top. I just off the cuff the other day, I pulled up the top 10 agents in the United States. And did you know that one of them's a woman, and she always looks wonderful? She is well-dressed. She is put together. She's got her crap together. Mm-hmm. Of the rest of the other 9 that were guys, one of them, it's Ronnie Matthews, and he and his wife are from Texas, so they have this Texas flag-looking shirt that they both wear. It matches. It's part of their brand. Cool. All right. Every single one of the other ones wears a suit and tie. Mm-hmm. And again, that's part of mindset. If I show up at the office every day and I'm dressed for success, whether I'm going to see anybody or not, whether I'm going to be in front of a client or not, I dress up for the day. That's going to impact my mindset. That's going to cause me to take my day that much more seriously. And I know a lot of people love to disagree with me on this, and they point to all these, well, look at so-and-so, and they're rich, and they don't dress in a suit and tie. Well, I get that, but you know what? You're not there yet. And so when you are, dress however you want. But my hunch is that if you'll dress up a little bit for your workday, you'll have better success.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, heck, I even remember when I was in high school, my favorite teacher was my math teacher. His name was Mr. A, and he would show up in a suit and tie. The only teacher in the entire school who wore a suit and tie. And he didn't have to do it, but he did it. And you know how I received it? Respect. He respected his job. He respected us. And he was extending that respect in a visual way by looking really sharp, really professional, and he got a lot of endearment, not just because he had a suit and tie, but because of his personality and his leadership. But let's face it, we're visual beings. And the more we can use the sensual input, whether it be visual, whether it be olfactory, whether it be touch, whether it be music, anything you can use to give people a first-class experience, why not? I mean, that's Absolutely. The question. Why not? If you want to be first class, why not lead with the visuals? Why not lead with an extraordinary experience?
Yeah, no, I 1000% agree. Your attire should strengthen your message, not weaken your message. Here's an example. I had a client, big client, right? Big producer, makes well over $1 million a year in take home just from his real estate business, owns a bunch of other business. I mean, this guy he makes a lot of money, right? He's well into the millions in what he makes every year. He had a friend he went to high school with that wanted him to come out and do a listing appointment. $1.5 million house. So he's known this girl for his entire life, and so he shows up. He's got his $150 flip-flops. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but so he's got these really nice high-end flip-flops on. He's got the Tommy Bahama shorts. He's got a Robert Graham button-up shirt on. So he's dressed well for his area. He's in California where it's hot all the time, and he shows up to this appointment, does the appointment, and leaves without the listing. Does not get the listing, and you know why he didn't get it? She later confided in another mutual friend that she was offended that he didn't respect her enough to dress up for their appointment.
There you go.
And for that reason, she would not list with him.
There's that respect word again. So we're not saying it's right for every business, but ask yourself, how can you level up your attire so that it gives the experience for the client, the customer, a remarkable experience where they go, wow,
And that means, for the ladies too, think about what we are and are not selling, right?
Right, exactly.
Let's call it what it is. Let's dress like you have self-respect.
Bingo.
And you'll get a lot further in life.
Mindset always reflects in the physical, whether it be your office space, your backyard. Some of you are cringing right now because you got a bunch of stuff that's sitting in the backyard that doesn't work. I won't go any further on that, but you know who you are, right? So our mindset's reflected in our environment. And when you have an extraordinary environment, beautiful environment, first-class environment, including your own appearance, that reflects on you. That says you're first class. That's just how people interpret it. So I think we've beat that dead horse enough. How can people reach out to you, Michael, but when they're wanting to reach out and connect with you more, go deeper in your stuff? How would they reach out to you?
I'd say check out our website. Go check out clubwealth.com. That's the name of our company. It's Club Wealth. And there's all kinds of great stuff on our website. We have a blog. We have really good blog posts with, they'll have like an hour-long video on how to do an open house and get 100 to 150 people at your open house. I mean, just and if you're in another business, there's great stuff on there for other businesses, like how do I deliver the ultimate client experience? How do I host a client event? How do I, do Facebook marketing, retargeting, all those types of things. There's so many things that you can learn whether you're in real estate or not. And it's all free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just go to our website. You can get it for free. There's all kinds of great checklists you can download for free. And I'd say start there. If you're on Facebook, connect with us on Facebook. You can go to we have a group it's called the Club Wealth Real Estate Agent Mastermind Group, and we get about 12,000 people in that group now. It's growing every day, and so that'd be another place you could connect with us as well.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been really very insightful. Thank you on behalf of our audience, dropping some knowledge bombs like they're going out of style. And what's one little nugget you'd like to have people stick in their pipes and smoke as we wrap up this session today?
Well, I'll tell you what, it comes back down to, I think Ford said it first, which is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm. So, amen to that. So if you don't believe in yourself, who the heck is? Who the heck will? Start with you. And when you believe in yourself, people tend to follow. People are gravitationally pulled towards certainty, confidence, and competence. And it starts with you, my friends. So you've been a phenomenal embodiment of that, Michael, throughout your career, and we can hear that even in your voice and your story. So thank you for being that embodiment of belief in oneself and having the courage, the tenacity, the determination to go for your dreams. Appreciate you, man.
Well, appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, Doran.
Awesome. Thank you. So that's all for now, my friends. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Local Domination Podcast, your ultimate guide for getting local clients fast. So if tips galore that help you soar is what you adore, know this, we've got more in store. Remember, nothing happens without implementation. So in the meantime, in between time, go forth, engage. It's time for Operation Domination.